computer. Hello, everybody. It is your host, KG82 Live, a.k.a. the Ball Brawlers. We are here for the Week 5 YarskCap with my co-host, as always, Zachariah Earlbeck. Zach, we're both 3-1. We both started the year 0-1. How you feeling, baby?
Well, I'd feel a lot better at 3-1 if a couple of my guys would stay fucking healthy, but I can't complain. You just got to get victories. So that's what's most important is victories. It is kind of fun watching some of these division races heat up. Early, we're starting to get in sort of the meat of the schedule. So it's going to get fun here pretty soon.
Amen to that. And you know what? We're having our special guest join us right now as we recap the weekly matchups from the week before. So with that, from the shittiest place on earth, we got Mr. Jacob Built from Reds. How we doing from the bar, baby?
Hey, it's awesome. I played men's league tonight, and you guys asked me to come on. Things got a little iffy on when I was going to get home, so I said I was going to live podcast from the bar. Let's see if I can turn this around right now.
What could be more perfect than Jacob Built live on the pod in the bar?
There we go. We're
built in his natural fucking element.
You betcha.
Oh shit! Well, you know what? As we always start the podcast, we kind of touch base on last week's matchup. So, Bill, you lost to Sap. What the fuck happened, man?
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to hold the phone up to my ear because it's kind of loud in here whenever you guys talk. But as I'm talking, can you hear me all right?
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Yep. So what happened was I made the trade to get Chris McCaffrey, and I thought it was going to be great. And actually, had I not made the trade, I still would have lost because Tom Brady and Josh Allen, the points ended up coming up the same as Zeke and Chris McCaffrey and them didn't have. But the other thing is, I can't lie because he will murder me if I do. Sap beat me. It hurts to say, but he beat me. He was projected to win by a lot, and then I started golfing. It was mid-Sunday afternoon. I was supposed to lose like 140 to 100. And then I get a text, I'm done golfing, and Sap's like, you motherfucker. I was like, what's going on? I check it. All I needed was Jacoby Myers to get one touchdown. But it didn't happen, and tip of the cap to Sap. All of us really kind of hate his team, but you know what? He's 3-1, and you can't argue 3-1.
Well,
so that's
Tino.
That's my recap on that. It sucks to lose to Sap, especially when you text him all the time about gambling and he rubs it in your face. But he won. That's all I can say.
That was going to be my question. We haven't seen the Valentino character today or this year. I was wondering if the fact that you're 2-2 and just got beat by Sap is probably the reason we haven't seen much Valentino this year.
Well, the reason for that is you have to feel your team out. And right now, I feel confident in my team, but I'm just not sure where they're sitting. I think they're good, but the 2-2 record says us-wise, and I have Kirby this week, which, if McCaffrey plays, great. If not, maybe 2-3. So you're kind of sitting there doubting your team a little bit. So Valentino is tougher to come about. I mean, for example, let's say I'm sitting in Jared's position, right? You can't be a villain at 0-4. So, I'm sitting there. I'm confident, but it's tough. It's tough. So I'm kind of holding back on the Valentino. And with Sap, the thing with Sap was you talk smack to him. You can't do trades in the future because then he's mad at you. So this is something I'm kind of working towards. I have to work for trades in the future.
Oh, geez. That's what I was going to – you kind of touched base on one thing. So I was curious how you said you're kind of feeling your team out. And year after year, and in terms of total points, you've done really well this year. But when we look at some of the Fantasy Pros things and the go-forward projections, they're not as big a fan of your team. Do you have any rationale why, or what's your general thoughts with that on why the experts might not like your squad so much?
Yeah, so I think the main thing with my squad is kind of like how you guys touched on last week was Jamar Chase. They really haven't caught up with that yet, which I think he's due for a big year. Like this week, with Joe Mixon hurt, I think they're going to throw the ball a lot more, which we can get into that later. I know Zach wants to get into that later. But I think they haven't caught up on that. And I think the other part is, my tight ends, that hurts. And my team's just – I forget who I told it to, but my team is like a very high floor but a very low ceiling. And that's when I started making trades. So the fantasy football gods or ESPN or the Pro Focus – they don't like high floors. They like the high ceilings. And my team didn't have that. They had hey, you're going to get 110 points a week. You're going to finish 7-8 or 8-7. You're going to make the playoffs, but we don't like you. So that's where I was sitting at. And, that's why I made a trade. And hopefully McCaffrey plays this week. We'll see. It's yet to be determined. He practiced in pads today. But we'll see. So I'm making some trades to try to get some higher end guys to make my team more valuable towards the end of the season.
So Tino, so basically what I'm hearing is you think the couple trades that you've done, obviously there could be more in the future, but the couple you've done, you think that's kind of put you up in that upper echelon, should cement you in that top tier of the power ranking.
Well, not quite in the top tier. I'm still my receivers still aren't great, but I got Josh Allen. I think he's a top 4 quarterback. And then I got Chris McCaffrey, which when he's healthy, which is a big if. Hamstring, those linger. I think I got a top 1 or 2 running back. So when you have those starting off, you're sitting pretty good. But the thing is, my receivers still question, Cooper's out this week, but I think by doing those trades that I did, I have an opportunity to try to get maybe a wide receiver 2 that can really help me out, really solidify it, or a tight end. You never know. I know a guy that was trying to trade me tight ends a couple weeks ago, but we'll see. I think I have higher ceiling guys right now than I had before, which Tom Brady's been thrown around a little bit. George Kittle's been thrown around a little bit. So trades happen a lot.
Yeah, and the one
Thank
thing
God.
about Christian
Yes,
McCaffrey, he is the absolute cheat code. He can almost take up 2 running backs worth of points in one slot.
Well, yeah. So
like
today, I was sitting there with 0 points for Christian McCaffrey, and then I log into fantasy later just to check what's going on. We might get into that later too. And I see Chris McCaffrey's projected 24.4 points. Come on. That's unfair.
That's fucking insane.
Even if he doesn't score that, the least he's getting you is 10, which most guys are projected 10.
Right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely at the very least. So,
yeah.
I got lucky that he potentially could be after 1 week, which actually, fun fact, my brother and I are going to Charlotte next week for the Vikings-Panthers game. So not only is he going to be on my team, but he better play because I want to see him play live. He torched Iowa in the Rose Bowl. I want to see him play live because he's unreal.
No,
so
that's for
you're
sure.
You're gonna have a modern day hedge over there. You're gonna be rooting for the Vikings and for Christian McCaffrey.
Bingo.
And so that's the one thing I guess I did commend your team. I think you kind of say you're not a big monster mass trader like Zach and I are most year after year, but you like to make the one big splash trade. And so you kind of gave away Zeke and Edmonds and Brady for McCaffrey and Allen, which are 2 of the top 3 at their position.
I don't want to be Babe Ruth here and calling my shot. You guys can ask Pooty. I told Pooty at the beginning of the year, because Pooty and I were trying to make some deals and just nothing ever came of them. I told Pooty Christian McCaffrey will be on my team by the end of the year. And when the trade happened, Pooty texted me and said, "You called it. You got it." So,
love that.
You're right. I don't make those little trades, but if I think someone's going to help me out, I'm going to make it.
All right. The one last question I kind of had, just because, you know what, we're all here together. We're going to do the cumulative circle jerk. When you're doing fantasy football moves and you did the proactive move for McCaffrey, how much did you have me or Zach's team in your mind worried that one of us were going to get there first?
1,000% that was a problem. Especially when he got hurt. Like you said, when he got hurt, I was just like, oh boy, the vultures are circling right now. And I have to find something and I didn't really like the Amari Cooper Zeke stack that I had. So, and I told that to Jared. I said, you can have, I think it was like Zeke and Chase Edmonds, or I think my other trade was like Sanders, Amari Cooper, and McKissick or something. I was kind of hoping he was going to take that one, but Jared was smart. He didn't take it. But no, I didn't like that stack. But yeah, no, it was 100% worrying. I mean, it's, you see Kirby, you went out and got big names. Zach goes out and get big names. Like, I have to make a move and get big names. And I don't want to, this is one of the notes I had. I don't want to say that Zach uses this podcast to say who's weak. And last week he asked Pooty, what are your weaknesses? And when he asked what his weaknesses are, you guys have fuel to the fire to be like, oh, so he doesn't like his running backs. We can trade for running backs. I'm telling you, Ross, if you're listening to this right now, stay strong. Travis Kelce, stay strong. Don't let one of these two guys tell you that you can get them. Stay strong. But yeah, no, I mean, anytime there's a big fish out there, you guys love wheeling and dealing, and you're gonna try to get them. Which, like I said, I had it as a note that Zach lowballs his team, and he likes to ask people. Well, he likes to ask people. He's like, "Oh, my team's no good, but do you want my running back? That's no good." So, but hey, if you do the podcast, which this podcast is great, by the way, which is why I wanted to be on it. See you, Buff. Yep. Hey, Buff, say hi quick. Nope, never mind. Buff didn't want to say hi. So yeah, no, it's like, hey, you guys are doing a podcast, you're doing great, but there are some advantages to it. You bring guests on, you ask their weaknesses, and you figure it out. So thank God Pooty didn't trade for a running back this week with either of you, but
I know. Hey, the one problem that we have is we really should give like a little explicit thing when you're saying these negatory comments about us, and we really should be waiting an extra day to post these. But we appreciate the love, and hey, we're trying to give the people what they want. So that's all I had on the document.
No, hey.
Go ahead.
You guys do a phenomenal job. There's no doubt. I watch it every week. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't come on it. But I love it, so I had to come on. I had to speak my mind quick because I'm like, you know what? There's just a couple things. And, I mean, Kirby, you say it every week. Zach, your team's way too low.
I'd appropriately rank my team at least. I'd put the first power rankings, I put myself top 3, I'm pretty sure, and stay up there every time.
He's trying to slow play his team, and it's like, Zach, you have a really good team. So, but no, you guys do a great job. I can't complain about anything. I love watching it every week. And I also regret not drafting Derrick Henry. I said
it. And that right there is why we have people on, so that it's not just me and Curb back and forth. You're allowed to take shots when we bring the guests on. That's the whole point. So.
And hey, I want to say full disclosure, I planned to go home, but then I was sitting here at Res, and there's some people around yet. I was like, well, if I go home, they're gonna go home. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to make the podcast fun. I'm going to live stream from Reds right now. So
honestly,
I hope I brought a little bit interestingness to this.
When Zach saw the text that you were going to head home from Reds, Zach was like, God, I actually hope he just does it from Reds. And then you said you wanted to do it there. We're just like, hell yes, let's go.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's fun. I'm on the Wi-Fi and stuff. My phone's at 20%. I got enough battery, so I should be fine.
There we go.
You better get scooting, man.
Axe will be happy. So, okay, we touched base a little bit on you and Staff's matchup. We got to touch base on one other matchup before we discuss the other big trade. You're obviously welcome to stay on and give your comments, or you can head out. It's up to you. So, we're staying. That's what we like to hear. So, the other team we got to make sure we give their flowers from last week's matchup was Kyler. His team went the freak off. Tyreek Hill had his explosion game. DJ Moore, his running back Eckler is an absolute stud. So he dropped 150 with one of his tight end getting hurt and not scoring any points. So major kudos to him, Zach. You got anything else you want to say on Kyler's performance?
You just knew Tyreek Hill was he had one of these coming. After he went like single digits the last 2 games, you knew Tyreek was going to do one of these. And I wanted to not only tip my cap to Kyler's 150, but if you look at his bench went bananas too. So it was a top to bottom shellac. Like you said, you got to tip your cap to Kyler a little bit. He had a hell of a week.
Yep. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah. If I want to touch on that, I mean, he was one of those guys. You guys are kind of questioning everything, and I love his team. I've kind of looked at his team to try to maybe make some trades. I'm like, there's really nothing he needs right now except for a tight end. And if you don't have a top 4 tight end, you can stream. So I mean, he's sitting pretty, and his team showed out this week. I'm actually kind of shocked. No one tried to snag Tyreek after a couple of hard weeks. I kind of looked at him and I was like, man, I could try to do something here, but good for no one trying to do it. And yeah, his team kicked ass this week.
May the record show both Zach and I 100% did try. I can guarantee it, but I'm fairly certain Tyler held strong. I know I pushed for it, and I pitched the Tyler Lockett, Russell Wilson stack that he could potentially do after I beat him week 2, and he held strong to Tyreek, and that was a smart move by Luddy.
Yep.
So kudos to him. But
well, yeah, because
trades,
everyone knew this week was coming.
Sometimes the best deals that you can make are not making a deal at all and staying true to your team for an extra week. So that's something that Zach will never experience because he loves to make deals. But with that in mind, we also have to touch base on the other mega trade that we had just earlier today. So we had Jared and Sap, who have both been buried at the bottom of Zach's power ranking all year long, switching up teams. So we got Sap getting Zeke, Jamal Williams. Tom Brady is finally back home, boys. Homecoming again, and Jared Cook. And then Jared is getting David Montgomery to kind of pair with his pickup of Damian Williams this morning. So he locks in the Bears running backs. And he also picks up Patrick Mahomes and George Kittle. So, Bill, I'm going to lead it off with you here first. What are your initial thoughts on the deal that happened between Jared and Sap this morning?
My initial thought is I'm very disappointed. I tried with Sap to get Tom Brady back home. And I tried to get Mahomes, and it didn't happen. So good for him for not doing it. Jared, he loves his Iowa guys. He loves his Miami Dolphins. I mean, the guy traded George Kittle away only to trade right back for him. So, that happens. But I think it's a good trade for both of them. Shane maybe gave up a little less on the quarterback ends, but Tom's still playing well. McCaffrey, basically all he can do is run more than Tom. Shane got a decent tight end back in the trade. Jared got a good tight end. And then running back wise, Shane got that RB1 he needed. And then Jared, he just added to his team with guys that are going to help him in the future. I mean, right now he has a stack with Damian Williams and David Montgomery where, when David Montgomery comes back, like Damian Williams is going to be useless. But Jared knew with Damian Williams being on his team, he's going to be useless in 4 to 5 weeks anyway. So, I think it was a beneficial trade for both of them. And it's funny to see George Kittle back home, like you said. I mean, he's back on Jared's team.
I know. It was a crazy one. Zach, what are your initial thoughts on it? We got Bill's initial reaction on it.
My thing, when I looked at Sap's team, he got his guy at quarterback. Part of fantasy football is having fun. He got his guy at quarterback. He definitely took a notch down at tight end. I don't think anybody can argue that. But what Sap did was basically trade a busted running back for a top 10 running back. So I think you got to commend Sap. I think he made a good deal for his team there because he was kind of missing that upper echelon running back, and now he's got one. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the one key driver behind it was obviously David Montgomery kind of spearheaded it. And then looking at Sap's team before the trade, his 2 top running backs were both Atlanta Falcon running backs, and they actually have their bye next week. So he had 0 running backs on his roster next week that were eligible to play. And so obviously Zeke was huge, but I think that throw in of Jamal Williams, which potentially can be a 1-week RB2, I think that would be the only critique that I would have had. If I was Jared, I'd try to hold on to him because he has high upside if DeAndre Swift is hurt, and he's been hurt in the past this year. But kudos to Sap for getting Jamal Williams. I think that was a nice little throw in. But you guys kind of touched base on everything else in regards to the deal. I think it was a fair deal. Very interested to see how Zeke goes the rest of the year, and I've already sent little snaps to staff saying, "Hey, Zeke, he was held out of practice for cautious knee injury, so just in case you're a little worried, I'm just going to give him a little bug. That's my job as the Tony Pollard owner. So, well, kudos to you. You don't have to deal with that shit anymore." Oh shit! But outside of that, guys, I think now that's pretty much all the major transactions we want to talk about. But the one thing we do need to dive into is the power rankings and how abysmally low that Zach is going to be, as he always freaking is. So right now,
Zach's probably at 10 this week.
I'm going to do my best to share the screen and see if I can get any better at this. Can you guys see it?
Yep.
Okay, beautiful. So right now we have the week 3 and week 4 power rankings. So here's a recap of where we were last week. And then Zach, I think you just want to kind of go the same order as always. Bottom 4, next 3, next 3. I'll fill it in, then we can compare it to Fantasy Pros, my guy.
I'm going to start not at number 10. I want you to click on the number 5 slot in the power rankings, and I want you to put Shane fucking Sapp at number 5 in the power rankings. It's time to give the man some due. I said to him, Sapp, if you win, you move up in the rankings, and God damn it, that's what's going to happen here. So finally, Sapp's going to get his due a little bit here. He's flying up the rankings.
I think this needs a quick pause for immediate reaction. Bill, are you scared of being lower than Sapp in this power rankings now?
Yeah, no, that'd be fine. I mean, he beat me, so. Hey, I also need to apologize to Sapp. He made a trade earlier, and then he dropped James White. I told him he was an idiot for dropping James White because he needed running backs. It was smart now because James White's hurt, so I apologize to Sapp. I needed to say that on here so he heard it. There we go. I said it. I'm done.
I know Zach and I tried to get him, and I was the lucky one to get him, and then he got hurt. So kudos to him. But all right, we jumped to number 5. We got the Sacco in there. Now, where are we jumping to now, Zach?
Now let's build from the bottom. I apologize, but this one's a no-brainer. We've got Jared at 4. At 10. He's the only 0-4 team. Some back-to-back big trades. So, you just got to start getting some W's there. At number 9, I have a giant faller this week. I have Josh Axman from number 4 to number 9 this week. He is the 1-3 team, the only one. It's a huge drop from where he was last week. He had some tough games with CD and Dak, but I do think Saquon's getting back to himself a little bit. So not an indictment, but that's where I've got him this week. After that, this one's going to sting a little. I've got Luddy at 8. Despite the giant week out of Luddy, I'm trying not to overreact. And again, this is...
Bill is on mute right now because he's at the bar, but his reaction is priceless right now. Bill, I will get you back on volume once we're done with the bottom 4, but right now you are muted, so hold on.
Despite his huge... I know it feels sacrilegious to have him this low, especially after his huge week, but it's how I think things will finish. So again, I'm trying not to overreact after 1 week. And then at number 7, I still have Jacob Schultes, a tough loss last week. But one thing I forgot to mention at the top of the show, I believe Jacob Schultes is in Spain for a month for work. So could be a little distracted with all the Spanish women there. So I've got him just missing the playoffs because of the Spanish women.
You know what? I absolutely respect missing the Spanish women. I mean, there's some nice ladies. But Bill, I know you were breathless there for, I think, seeing Luddy number 8. I had to mute you because it was a little loud for a second. So what are your reactions to this bottom 4?
So yeah, you had to mute me because the jukebox here plays like music when it doesn't play for like every 20 minutes. They'll just turn a song on randomly. So you're probably catching that background noise. But, I agree with Jared. I agree with Axman. They're the lowest teams. But yeah, when he said like, it's going to surprise me, when I heard Luddy after scoring 150, that was surprising. I mean, he's got good wideouts. He's got a good running back core. And it shocked me because, I mean, I look at my team and I wonder if when I play Luddy, which That's my biggest fear is everyone's so equal. It's tough to win games, but yeah, no, you're right. The face I made when I heard Luddy was shocked because
So I might have to clip that and make that the thumbnail for
that would be funny.
thing.
But yeah, no, Luddy's he's got a solid team and he played really well this week. So I was kind of shocked when you did it. But you know what? I understand it. It's fluid. Everyone's pretty close right now. It could have been any one of us. So I get your standings. I'm also kind of shocked it wasn't you. If I'm being honest, you know, a 3-1 team sitting at the 8th spot, but you know, that's just kind of how you roll.
Like I said, everybody is real tight in that log jam in the middle, so we're splitting hairs there. So unfortunately, Luddy, despite the good week last week, still got him under that big black bar, which means you're missing the playoffs. So yeah, like I said, I knew that was going to catch some eyebrows there. So if we keep going, who do I got sneaking just into the playoffs? I've got another faller. I've got Ross coming off back-to-back losses, who was the number 1 spot last week. Ran into Luddy's huge 150 burger. So again, you know, is that maybe a little too harsh after having a tough week against the 150 burger? I'm going to stop talking because I don't want to give his team any bulletin board material. So I've got Ross at 6. We already touched on Sapp at 5. Give the man some due. He made the big trade. He belongs there, 3-1. Number 4, I've got Taylor Pudence. We've talked the whole year about how much I like his team. Back-to-back wins. Bill's talking to a stranger.
We got you muted again, Bill. You're good.
Pootie's starting to heat up. He gets he's starting to heat up. He gets the win despite some mediocre performances from Cup and Cook, which is always dangerous. So got to give credit. Pootie's got a good squad there. He's going to be dangerous. So despite being 2-2, I've got him at the 4 spot right there.
Gotcha. And my initial reaction just from 6 through 4, I think it's a little interesting just with personally, I wouldn't have Pootie in the 4 slot. I think I had him 1 slot higher at the number 3. And then I have 4 through 7 as a big mix master for me. I think that we'll see, but my guess is you never know with your rankings, but I think Bill's team, Shane, Ross, and Luddy, I think are 4 teams you put in a blender, and I don't know who's going to come out of it. So I think those 4 teams are super close. And so that's what's going to make it fun because Schultz's team is right there as well. So that's potentially 5 teams super close in my view on who potentially could be making the playoffs. But it's kind of funny. And I'm also hoping that as Bill's moving around the bar that we're going to randomly get him on the pod picking up a chick. So Bill, I'm now going to unmute you. You got any comments on the next 3 or what do you want to say, my man?
No, I like the next 3. You know, I'm shocked. Like I said, I'm shocked again. Zach's not in there yet. But if I had to say, I think the reason I'm not sitting at the 6th spot right now or the 5th spot right now is because of my trade. You look at my team before that, it was very average guys. Like I said, high floors. Where that's why I'm not there yet. So I understand that. Not to toot my own horn there, but you know, we'll see how everything goes. If McCaffrey gets hurt again, I'm in trouble. But hey, it looks good. I'm shocked. I'm gonna kind of curious to see how these next ones are gonna go because all 3 of us are on here. I have a pretty good idea how it's gonna go, but we'll see.
With that in mind, Bill, do you want to give your official projection before Zach does? Because he's got them locked and loaded. Do you want your projections in here to see if you got it right?
I'm gonna say I'm number 3, and then Zach's not gonna put himself number 1 because that would just be jinxing himself. So I think it's gonna be Kirby, Zach, me, 1, 2, 3.
Zach, take it away, my man. Who's number 3?
I have Mr. Zach Earlbeck at number 3.
Oh, shit.
3-1. I have ripped off 3 straight wins, but injuries have been devastating the roster. Mostert, A.J. Brown, Mixon. Now they're talking about Hawkinson. It's clearly making my lack of depth pretty apparent. So I've got myself at the 3 spot. Number 2, I have the highest scoring team in the Yarski, Jake Bilt. You know what wins fantasy? Scoring points. So I have built at the number 2 spot. Tough loss, but if he gets Christian McCaffrey back this week, I mean, he's gonna be tough. He's got probably the best 1-2 RB punch in the league. And then last but not least, with 3 straight wins, he has the pass pedigree and looks like, obviously got a big game this week against Kirby and Built, but looks like probably right now the favorite to get the bye out of the Natty division. So that's the old Earlbeck power rankings for week 5. What are your thoughts, boys?
All right, Bill, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you and we weren't quite on the ball with it, but I'm going to see if this unmute's going to work. There we go. Well, we're a little off, Bill. Go ahead.
So I moved away from the commotion again, so I'm kind of further away from it. I apologize for having to be muted all the time because of everyone around me. But, I get that. I still, obviously I love all of our teams. And, if anyone got on this podcast right now, with the exception of maybe Jared, everyone would probably rank their team number 1 right now. I mean, everyone loves their team. It's tough to get trades done because everyone does love their team. So I think that's pretty close to right. I think Kirby's got a good 2-headed monster there with Derrick Henry. He's got Tyler Lockett. He's got Justin Jefferson, big Vikings guy. So I love Justin Jefferson. But I think that's a pretty good top 3 there. We'll see what McCaffrey does. Hamstrings linger, like I said. So if he's out, next week I could be down at the 8 or 7 seed, depending on what McCaffrey does. If he sits out again, I'm probably fine. But if he plays and gets hurt, I'm going to drop a lot, which is understandable. But, this league's about winning, not losing. So I made the move to win and not lose, and we'll see how it pays out for me. But I think Zach did a pretty good job there.
Yep, I would 100% agree. The one conflict I have, I think I had Built in the 4 spot. I think the CMC is just such a big unknown with hamstring injuries are always tough, so you don't know how to project forward. And Pootie's receivers are absolutely top notch. So I think I had him 3rd overall. And Zach, again, you never fail to disappoint us by having your team too low. Your team has a better record than Built. You're within 10 points on the year on him. And your quote unquote injury history that you have, AJ Brown is practicing again today. So
well, and Cup. I mean, for Pootie's sake, Cup is projected like 19 points this week. That's insane. Oh, yeah. He's better than Devontae Adams. So good for Pootie. That was a great pickup by him.
Yep, for sure. So I think it's a toss-up between me and Zach for the 1 slot. But of course, he'll put him number 3 because it wouldn't be the Zach Earlbeck power rankings without some kind of lowballing of himself to try and pitch to everyone else. So fuck you, Zach. Exactly. But you know what we're also going to have to do really quick then, obviously. We'll have to see what Fantasy Pros says looking at these rosters. And one thing to quick note of is me and Bill currently don't have a kicker, so that might kind of hurt our rest of the rankings. But right now,
constantly on ESPN because of that.
Yep, I did as well. But we'll obviously had kickers beforehand, so some of these is subject to change. But number 1, Zach still holds the number 1 slot, with myself at the number 2, Pootie at the 3. Josh at the 4 is the biggest discrepancy right there between the week 5 power rankings. So right now, where they like his team, they say the best RB2 is for Josh. He's got an elite tight end with Darren Waller, but then really a whole bunch of middling areas. So I'm not 100% sure what they're seeing there. They like his starters compared to everyone else. But that's one item to highlight for sure in terms of variance for the rest of the season rankings. And then the other one that's a big difference, obviously, is Built, which they never liked this team. But
they've always hated my team.
And that's showcased right here with these wide receiver 1 and 2. We think Jamar Chase might be better than what they're ranking him at. So that's potentially variance that you're looking at.
I mean, if you look at my bench and stuff, I added today, I added a couple Benny Snell. He's my insurance. So he's going to get 0 points. But you know what? If Najee gets hurt, I have insurance. So they're going to hate that. But that's just a move for the future potentially.
Yep, for sure. And the one other item, obviously, highlight, it has your RB1 as the 5th ranked RB1. If that's Christian McCaffrey, it's number 1 or number 2. So all of a sudden that makes you fly up the rankings. So those are the big items. Zach, was there any ones in these Fantasy Pros power rankings that caught your eye a little bit?
Yeah, I think Axe is the one that sticks out to me, and Axe must be thinking the same thing as Fantasy Pros, because I think the only transaction he's made all year is to pick up like one defense throughout the first 4 years. So he must be pretty I think he must be pretty comfortable with what he's looking at. So hopefully he knows what he's doing back there.
So no insider information here. I'm not in any other group chats that I might have heard this, but I'm pretty sure he's a lot more interested in gambling than he is worried about his fantasy roster right now. Hence him starting Daryl Henderson over Sony Michel. He worries about his best a little bit too much. Like he's still invested, don't get me wrong, but he loves the gambling a little bit. So it's good to see that itch scratched. But at the same time, you gotta keep your team up to date.
I can't. That's not.
I know he missed waivers today too. That's why I'm saying that, because there's a couple guys he probably could have got off waivers that he would have loved to have.
So we're gonna have to have an intervention with Josh, because if you're starting players that are out and you're missing waivers, that means the Yarsky is not in the priority of where it needs to be.
That's the kind of shit that we just can't allow. As a league, we're strong because everyone's so invested and we allocate the amount of time that we need to into it with the pod and everything else. And it's just
maybe me saying that is the start of Villantino this year. I had to keep the league true, and if I see that, I'm not going to name the name, but you have to start wondering, is that kind of stuff coming into play with him, or you just never know. He's not that other league guy yet, but
you hinted it, for the record. Villantino was the one that hinted it. We didn't say it.
All I will say is Axe needs to get his shit
together.
That
motivates him, great.
I mean, Axe needs to get his shit together, because I'm not worried about burning any bridge with Axe's trading, because he doesn't trade. So, Josh, get your shit together.
Yep.
So, if the Villantino is what it takes to get Axman to dial it back in, then you know what? The Villantino is what we need then.
Oh, yeah, exactly. No, Villantino's for the good of the league. Keeps everybody active.
Yep, absolutely. And the last thing I just want to take note of is, even though Zach gave him his flowers, right now beats by Ray and is second to the bottom. And what is actually changed in prior weeks is the score. And there's starting to be some differentiation. A lot of teams were in the 100s, 90s, 80s before. Now we're seeing just two teams in the 90s and a whole bunch of 80s. And then Sap and Jared are actually in the 50s, which is a little low. So you guys are actually failing high school. You're failing this league. So get your shit together. Get back in the 60s and get this shit going together. But that's the last comment that I really had, was the failing grades from Staff and Jared. But still an early year for Shane that he can make it right. Jared, he's got to start rattling off some wins, or else he'll be started looking for those Sacco weeks. So I think that's kind of everything that we wanted to touch base on the power rankings. Do we want to touch base really quickly on next week's matchup, Zach?
Yes. Would you in Fantasy Pros, would you pull up the Bilton Kirby matchup? Because
yep.
For me,
I'm at 4% right now, so I'm low on battery. But yep,
we got the week 5 power rankings right here.
For me, this is the premier matchup. Is Bilton Kirby this week? It's going to have huge implications for.
Well, no kicker.
Remember,
and
maybe I don't got any kicker either.
They might have McCaffrey out yet too, because he's not for sure playing.
So this is clearly the premier matchup this week. It's going to have big implications, and curiosity will definitely build if Bill gets CMC back. But he's going to need him because Derrick Henry plays the Jaguars, and he's going to have like 100 points himself.
So I looked forward on future schedules. Both times I play you, Curb, Henry has the Jaguars, so I'm in trouble against you both times I play you.
You know what? That's the beautiful karma of it all. I feel like that's what the good fantasy guys brought down me. You pass on Derrick Henry, you play him twice against the Jaguars. That is your penance for having to deal with that shit. So I agree. That is going to be a great matchup, obviously, between me and Bell. We're traditionally very high on the standings.
And the cool thing, that's the premier matchup, but I think the cool thing is there's so many 2-2 teams, 3-1 versus 2-2 teams, that like every matchup matters now. I mean, it's not like there's 2 4-0 teams, 2 0-4 teams where like everyone's in the thick of things, and it's every week's going to matter for all 17 weeks. which I think is awesome.
Yep, absolutely. Because the matchup I actually wanted to highlight was between Shane and Pooty. So right now that's a 93 versus 98 matchup. But the big reason, obviously, Shane being 3-1 and Pooty 2-2, that's a close matchup. But
Yeah,
I think Shane, despite being a large underdog here, he needs a win because of the running backs that he's going to have on a bye next week. Obviously, getting Zeke is going to help in Jamal Williams, but he's losing a lot of firepower next week, and it's just going to be interesting. So if he can somehow scrap away a win from Pooty, all of a sudden he needs only 3 more wins the rest of the year to be 7-7, and more likely than not, that's going to get you in the playoffs. So this is a very big week for Shane, and if Pooty can get a win, come back from his 0-2 start to be 3-2, that is a monumental matchup for me. Zach, go ahead.
And so one note on the Sap Pooty matchup, we're going to have a good feeling for how this is going to go after the Thursday night game. Because if you look at Pooty's team, Stafford, DK Metcalf, Tyler Higbee, Cooper Kupp, and then on Sap's side, he's going to go with the Rams defense, and I thought there was one more, but that looks like it's it. So we're going to have a good indication of how this is going to go after the Thursday night game.
Yep, absolutely.
Which we're going to be watching in Jefferson if anyone wants to join us.
I have placed the largest wager of my semi-professional gambling career, so I will be sweating it out at the DraftKings Casino in Jefferson.
Boys, I love you. I'm glad you had me on. I'm at 1% now, so before I get cut off without saying goodbye, great podcast. Keep up the good work, and let's hope that Christian McCaffrey plays this week. We don't need Chuba Hubbard. We don't need Chuba Hubbard playing this week. So,
all
have
right,
a good night,
later.
boys. Thanks for having me on.
Later, Bill.
Yep, thanks.
Oh shit. Well, we got built from Reds. I mean, what other place were built jump in on?
I mean, what can't this podcast do? Look at us. We're getting guests in their natural habitat where we are getting the unfiltered version of Built. He's clearly had a few drinks. We're getting the unfiltered version of Built, and there is no better version of Built than the unfiltered version.
I know. So you know what? I would be remiss not asking. You said the largest wager of your life. Are you willing to disclose how many units? And if not, no shame. Then I'm just curious, which side are we going on?
So I have, let me double check. I need to do the math. It is a 20-unit wager, but I'm going to put an asterisk by it, okay? Because it's the free bet on Caesars. Yeah. So it is a $20 or 20-unit bet on the Rams -2. Biggest bet of my semi-professional gambling career. So we're going to be rooting for Pooty's Stafford Cup stack to go banana land this week.
Damn, that makes me want to get there that much more. I remember I had that free $100 bet, and the day I got a promotion from work, I was like, screw it. Today's been a good day. I'm just going to throw my $100 free bet at a no-run first inning. The second batter got triple, and then the next 2 players struck out. So I feel like there's good karma coming your way, my man. There's good karma coming your way.
I appreciate that. I know this is a fantasy podcast, but it's got a gambling flavor to it. So that's what I'm going to be sweating out on Thursday with Pooty and Sap probably sweating out similar things.
Amen to that. Amen. Well, you know what, man? I think that's about everything that we had on the docket today. Thanks again to Bill for jumping on, except for we don't appreciate the slander about us trying to take advantage of other members. But you know what? We'll just make sure to blur that out. And with that, Zach, you got any last words for the people?
Nope. Like I said, I'm going to be sweating the shit out of that game on Thursday night. Hopefully we can get ourselves some good juju going in. I like that. I don't have any fantasy players in that game, and I like that I won't be playing any fantasy players in that game. So hopefully we get some good juju going into the weekend. Let's go Rams, baby. Let's go Rams.
Hey, you know what? We all love the positive vibes. PVOs, baby, PVOs. But with that, we're going to put a wrap on this Week 5 YarskCap. Thank you, everyone, and have a good football weekend, everybody.
Peace.